Welcome to Comicstorian, where we take your favorite comic books, video games, and movies and break down the lore and stories within into a audio drama. As time goes on, a lot of our series come out and they take a while to get to completion, which turns them into a very long playlist. So we eventually turn those playlists into these full stories, allowing you to watch one video of multiple videos made over time, so voices may change or our presentation may change, but it's the same story. Today we're going to be giving you the full story of Injustice versus the Masters of the Universe. This is a spin-off title, not in the main continuity of the DC Universe, and also not in the main continuity of Injustice, but just a fun title in general. I hope you guys enjoy the full story of this. In the furthest reaches of space, there is a shining light as Zodac races at transliminal speeds. He was the last of the Council of Elders on the planet of Eternia, a place watched over by the benign sorceress and protected by the champion, He-Man! Eternia is also the home to Castle Grayskull and its many secrets. Many have tried to claim the fortress's secrets, more recently, Skeletor, but all have been thwarted. Zodac now travels as fast as the physical laws of the universe allow, for the cosmogonic equilibrium hangs in the balance, and he fears that a great darkness follows in his wake. Meanwhile, at the Royal Palace of Eternos, the capital city of Eternia, a fight rages on as He-Man knocks the sword out of his mechanical counterpart, Faker. He-Man shouts, 3 months! 3 months gone because of you! And Faker tells him, yes. If not for Mossman, I would still be wandering the dwell of delusions. Soon Faker's skin begins to change into the color of He-Man's, and he says, I would still be king if it wasn't for you. A few seconds later, He-Man is knocked through the walls into the holding cells where his parents are held, stating, this reign is over. He brushes off the debris, telling his parents, the king and the queen, that he must take them away from this place. King Randor tells him, we can't tell which one is the real one, son. Just as He-Man offers his hand, Battlecat lunges at him, tearing apart the mechanical body, and the real He-Man says, we may sound and look alike. However, Battlecat can tell the difference between real and scrap metal. Just then a tomato flies across the room, hitting He-Man, and the people begin shouting, damn you! We were better off without you! More comments are yelled out as everyone wishes that they had let the Faker rule. He punished criminals like they deserved. He would have ended the threats of Hordak and King Hiss and even Count Marzo for good. What good is being the most powerful man in the universe when he spends half his time as a weakling? He-Man releases the power out of his sword and he walks away, telling them, I use my strength to fight for freedom, or I will not use it at all. As he leaves the palace, off in the distance, Zatanna and Swamp Thing watch, and Zatanna says, after all this time, we finally found our guy. A short while later, He-Man looks over the city and his mother, Queen Marlena, and she tells him that she never did believe that Faker was him for a second. A mother knows these things. He-Man sighs, stating, Faker took over and the people wanted him. They wanted a police state. Marlena then says that those people were just the vocal minority at best. Most of the kingdom is dancing in the streets. He-Man reflects back, telling her, after all of these years, I thought of He-Man as the barbarian hero who rides down to save everyone and then leave. But now I don't have a secret identity anymore. Does anyone really need Prince Adam? Marlena kisses his cheek, telling him that she happens to like her son the way that he is. Take time for yourself and relax. As Marlena walks away, vines reach out off of the wall, grabbing He-Man, throwing him down into the wooded area below. Zatanna kneels down, stating, I'm sorry that I had to do this, but we've come here looking for your help. He-Man tells her, you have a really funny way of asking. And another voice says, we had to be careful. Impulsive actions from a man that can level a mountain with his fists can have disastrous consequences. We know from experience. As Batman walks up, He-Man asks, what is this about? And Batman tells Cyborg, show him. Images of Superman appear, and Batman tells him the story of Superman and his lust for order and control after being manipulated to kill his own wife and unborn child. He tells him the story of Injustice, a world in which Superman named himself the High Counselor of Earth and he ruled with an iron fist, but he found himself captured by the heroes who opposed him. When an alien named Brainiac attacked the Earth, Superman was released to fight back. They won. However, Superman took the chance and stole Brainiac's advanced technology, re-establishing his regime, far crueler and more controlling than ever. But Superman has one weakness, specifically, eldritch energies, magic. He has done everything that he can to find enchanted objects and seal them away so that they cannot be used against him. He looks in areas of the multiverse for worlds where it's most prevalent, like Eternia. What he said before about fighting for freedom, it convinced them that he was the man that they need to stop Superman once and for all. As Batman extends his hand to He-Man, Captain Tila jumps down to the crowd, kicking Harley Quinn, stating, she turns her back for 1 second and he's already in trouble. The heroes all begin to fight back, but Tila outmaneuvers them all with ease, knocking them down. Tila then gets ready to strike again, but Mossman tells her to stomp. Swamp Thing and he are both a part of the Parliament of Trees. There are no lies in the green. The Batman speaks the truth. Back on Earth, though, a group of teenagers walks through an alley and they notice the S symbol spray painted along the wall. One kid scoffs, stating that the big S stands for slaves, and another tells him that he needs to be careful with what he says. The walls, they have ears, man. Just then, a controlled Copperhead leaps off the rooftops, telling them to cease. They have been judged guilty of a pre-crime by the regime. Their sentence is pain. But while Copperhead gets to work on the teenagers, Wonder Woman floats in the sky watching. Once Copperhead is done, Wonder Woman reports back to Superman, telling him that the Crypt-Tech armor worked perfectly. No insubordination or attempts to flee. And Superman says that he appreciates her continued devotion to efficiency. Superman out. As the screen fades, he looks back at Batman, who is strapped into a chair with wires going into him, stating, that's what it's all about, efficiency. And that's exactly what you get when Batman and Superman work together. This Batman says that he is detecting a new case. Moscow. Subject registers 9.7 on the cowardly index, 8.8 on the superstitious. Recommendation, strike terror into his heart. Superman says that he wholeheartedly agrees. And just then a weak voice calls out, asking before he sends Wonder Woman out across the heavens, may he make a recommendation? Superman turns back asking, what is it, Skeletor? The weak and fragile Skeletor says that he was once a great collector of magical artifacts. Since being saved, I would like to offer my services and detect those artifacts for the regime. In fact, the boy there, Freddie Freeman, has sneakers that you will want. Back over in Eternia, He-Man speaks to the sorceress asking what he should do. His mother used to speak of fond memories of Earth when it came to that place. The sorceress tells him that they can manage. Go bring the power of Grayskull to this enslaved world. He is a champion not of Eternia, but of the universe. In the woods, He-Man says that settles it, he's going. And Tila tells him, not without her he isn't. But before he goes, there's one more thing. He-Man holds up the power sword shouting, by the power of Grayskull! Lightning strikes down from above, granting him his strength. But back in space, Zodac gets closer and closer to his homeworld of Avion, when suddenly he is struck from behind by a pair of Omega lasers. He drifts, stating that he must tell the sorceress. He comes for Grayskull. The deep voice tells him, no, you are mistaken. The Lord of Apocalypse does not come for Eternia. Darkseid is here. Back on Earth in the Resistance's hideout, Batman explains that the projection that they see now is the Black Oracle. It's located in the Metropolis crater and the regime's current base of operations. It is from here that Superman and his lieutenants monitor the world for thought crimes. Zatanna's spells are the only thing protecting them from its eyes, and they don't know how long it will last. The Oracle is also home to Wonder Woman's Suicide Squad, Superman's superhuman criminals controlled by Brainiac's Crypt-Tech. If they want any chance of stopping this, the Oracle needs to come down. He-Man looks at old pictures of Superman when he was Clark Kent, asking, what happened to this man? You say that he was once a seeker of truth and justice. He doesn't look capable of the atrocities that you speak of. So Batman tells him, Superman hasn't been Clark Kent for a very long time. Brainiac's tech has made him even colder, more calculating, crueler. Superman has security protocols to match every member of the Resistance's strength and countermeasures for their powers. Only Crypt-Tech wearers can get in and out of Oracle, but wearing armor instantly dominated the user's mind. He-Man, you will be our wild card. He's not calculated you yet. You may be our last chance to putting an end to this, permanently. Batman leaves and He-Man tells Tila that he is nothing more than assassin to them. She tells him that he volunteered to fight this war. He played prince, he played hero. But now he needs to learn to play a soldier. He should know, wars have casualties. As night begins to fall, He-Man walks the streets of Blüdhaven under the spell of a disguise created by Orko. He-Man looks around, stating that his mother would talk of the stories of America. It was massive, crazy, and a beautiful place. A place without kings or queens, where gods didn't choose their people, instead people chose their gods. Just then, He-Man sees a woman standing on a ledge of a building and she falls off. He jumps in to catch her, and as they land, The woman shouts, "Why did you do that? I had one chance. Intent to self-harm? It's a thought crime. They're going to come for me." A second later, Bane appears behind He-Man swinging, stating, "You have been judged of a pre-crime by the regime. Your jury today is Subject Bane." He-Man deflects the punch and Bane says, "Unknown impediment to sentencing. Cannot identify." Orko flies in yelling to He-Man that the disguise spell is messing with the crypt tech in his armor. His magic does work better here than Eternia. Woohoo! Just then, Copperhead jumps down from the building grabbing Orko, telling him, "Your jury today is Subject Copperhead. Your sentence is death." He-Man turns back and Bane frees himself from the shock, knocking He-Man across the alley. Orko backs away, getting ready to cast a spell, stating that he's really hoping his fingers don't fail him this time. As Orko casts his spell, he shocks both Bane and Copperhead in one place. Bane simply says, "Break, break, break." He-Man tells him that he can finish that sentence for him, and he punches him in the stomach, knocking the two of them across the alley. The two shake their heads, asking, "Where are we?" And He-Man tells them, "Your wills have been taken over by Superman and his regime. I understand that you may be criminals here, but my quarrel isn't with you. You can retreat as long as you cause no more trouble and leave the crypt tech behind. If you wish to continue your battle, I will be bringing out the sword." As He-Man stabs the sword into the ground, Bane and Copperhead begin to take off their armor. While the two leave, He-Man sheaths his sword and the woman from before says that she has no idea what's going on here, but she needs to go. He-Man stops her asking, "Before that, what is your name?" She tells him that her name is Regina, and He-Man says, "Why would you attempt to take your own life?" She begins to cry, stating that this world was supposed to be fixed, but it's worse than it ever was before. She's so tired of endangering those around her because of what she's thinking. He-Man leans down, and he tells her, "Listen, my mother came from this world. She traveled billions of miles across the stars. She fell from the heavens and onto a new world. Even lost on another planet, she survived. She found love. She led a nation. She became queen. If it's one thing that I know, it's the people of Earth are unequaled when it comes to the strength within them. She is unique and valuable. There is nothing that you cannot face. I will save this world, and you must be there to see it." Meanwhile, back at the Oracle, the unknown Batman working for Superman groans, stating, "Error! Subject escaped. Justice." Skeletor says from the door, "Must really got you, huh? Or perhaps the great original Batman doesn't like being sidelined." Superman looks back, telling him 2 agents just went offline, and he does not like not knowing why. Has there been any detection of esoteric items that could have caused this? Skeletor tells him, "I have seen nothing, but there must be an artifact in play. I will return to the study and gaze deeper into the scrying pool." As Skeletor shuffles off, Superman asks, "Wonder Woman, do you not like him?" And she says that it's not what she thinks. He is useful, too pathetic to pose a threat. Skeletor quietly laughs to himself. Pathetic Skeletor, who once held the orb of knowledge and gazed into the nexus of realities. He reaches into the scrying pool, pulling out a sword, stating, "Pathetic Skeletor, who will stop at nothing to have his power again." Over in the Resistance hideout, Batman shouts at Teela, asking, "What do you mean he left? His bodyguard just let him slip out the damned front door?" Teela tells him, "Never chastise her." They see a savage war god with a flaming sword, but inside he's still a stubborn, irresponsible teenage boy forced to grow up. They can't even begin to understand what he is feeling. Just then, He-Man shows back up wearing Bane's armor, telling them, "It's okay. You don't have to make excuses for me. I did come back with a present, and now Orko and I have a plan." A short while after He-Man returned, everyone is gathered together, and Batman begins to go over the plans to attack the Oracle. It is surrounded by pylons fueled by independent antimatter reactors, which generate the electromagnetic dome. With He-Man bringing back 2 working suits and Orko's unique skills, they have a shot at getting through. He-Man then says Teela and him will get in and destroy the central control array in the Oracle. They'll disconnect it from all pre-programmed weapon systems, and their forces can then overwhelm the Suicide Squad. Once that happens, he will take their world back from Superman and give it to the heroes. Everyone gets ready to head out, but Batman stops, asking if he can have a word. He-Man tells him that there's no need to apologize for earlier, and Batman tells him, "I am not apologizing. What I wanted to say was at first I wasn't sure of you, if we had found the right guy to help us stand up against Superman. You started this game so young, but you're proud. You're a spoiled prince with the pressure of a heroic legacy hanging over you. In other words, we're very much the same." Batman pulls down his mask, revealing himself to be Damian Wayne, and he says that he is the heir to the mantle of Batman. On the path to attaining his legacy, blood was shed. He killed his best friend, and though they share much, they are different. You made your parents proud. Meanwhile, on Eternia, with the team that Batman left behind, reports come from the Sorceress that they have been missing prisoners from Darksmoke. The Sorceress gets up, uneasy at the thought, and Cyborg asks if they should make contact with He-Man and ask him to return if they get attacked. The Sorceress tells him no matter what, tomorrow, somewhere we'll always need a He-Man. But outside, the two teams talk with each other when suddenly Stratos falls out of the sky and onto the ground. A voice calls out that he would have been added to the army, but as they can tell, they've already had some recent additions. Starfire looks up to see Steppenwolf and quickly calls out to everyone that they are under attack. Princess Corey of Tamarin commands you, attack and defend! Meanwhile, back on Earth, Teela looks through the rubble to find a picture of a family and says that she's never seen such destruction. They say that Superman's almost a god, so why didn't he just rebuild Metropolis? He-Man tells her from the tales that he read, he did. He put everything back to the way it was after the explosion, right down to every detail. He said the world needed a reminder of what could happen if they don't listen to him. But this is it, the moment of truth. He steps through the barrier, cautiously looking around, and just when everything seems okay, there's a rumbling at his feet. Moments later, a giant worm bursts out of the ground and Orko yells that these are the rot beings from the Black Realm. Superman must have seeded the grounds with them. Teela jumps up attacking the worm, telling He-Man to go on ahead, she'll handle these. He-Man takes out the Sword of Power, telling the other worms as he slices through them, "Excuse me, mind if I cut in?" With one powerful blow, He-Man creates a hole into the Oracle, but is quickly grabbed by the building security protocols. He struggles to hold onto his sword and he says, "By the power of Grayskull, I have the power!" Lightning shoots through the area, freeing He-Man from the building's grasp, but just then something else happens. The Bane suit that he is wearing begins to short out, stating that Cryptac reconfiguring. As the lightning fades, He-Man looks at the armor, now showing it to be more like his original armor infused with Cryptac. He says, "That's good." But before he could finish the thought, Lobo punches him in the face, stating, "Your jury today is Subject Lobo." Then he's followed up by Deathstroke, Killer Frost, Solomon Grundy, Cheetah, and finally Grodd. However, it's not just on Earth that the villains have begun to show themselves. Back on Eternia, battling against Darkseid's Parademons continue, all while Darkseid himself is watching, commanding both his army and the villains of Eternia. Back on Earth, He-Man wastes no time fighting off Wonder Woman's Suicide Squad. He charges in, kicking Lobo's jaw almost clean off, slamming Grodd's head into Solomon Grundy's and taking Deathstroke's sword, stabbing him with it. Lobo gets ready to grab him from behind, but a sonic cry rings out, popping his eyes. He-Man looks back. "Thanks." And Black Canary tells him, "No problem, handsome," while the Green Arrow yells, "Hey, I'm right here!" As the last of the Suicide Squad is dispatched, He-Man, Teela, and Damian break through to the top of the Oracle, with Damian shouting, asking, "What have they done to my father?" Batman wakes up, stating, "Detecting insurgent intruders. Recommendation, strike terror into their hearts." Orko begins to cast his magic, shocking the system that Batman is connected to, and Batman snaps back, struggling, asking, "Ugh, what happened?" Damian tells him that Superman wanted to save the world, but he didn't even care about saving his own cousin. The last of his line. He used Supergirl for his own ends, just like Ra's al Ghul did to him when he was younger. Blood may not mean anything to Supergirl, but it means everything to him. Before Damian can free Batman, the lasso of truth is suddenly around his neck, pulling him back. Teela then jumps in, kicking at Wonder Woman's arm, and Wonder Woman tells her to come. It's been far too long since she broke in a shield maiden. He-Man reaches for his sword, but a voice says, "I do hope they hurt each other." He-Man looks back, shouting, "Skeletor?" And Skeletor asks, "Surprised? Thought I was dead, killed by the most powerful man in the universe?" Just then, He-Man feels immense heat pouring on him as Superman breaks through, hitting him with the full blast of his heat vision. Skeletor cackles, telling him, "No, old friend, I'm afraid you've mistaken me for you." Orko quickly flies over to Batman to try and help free him, and as he does, he slowly comes to his senses. But what he sees in front of him is Damian, dead. Images of Damian flash before Batman's eyes, and he tells Orko that this isn't his fight. Batman then stands up, ripping the regime insignia off his chest, shouting, "I am the leader of the resistance. I am Bruce Wayne. I am Batman. I am a father." Across the room, He-Man slowly gets back up with the heat vision blast hitting him, and Superman tells him, "You may have that magical sword, but you are young and inexperienced. The resistance must be desperate. You couldn't even give your own people what they wanted." He-Man tells him, "No, I gave my people what they deserved, a choice." But as that goes on, Skeletor sneaks away and a voice calls out asking, "So you're him, huh? The demon mage who's been helping Superman?" Zatanna tips her hat, stating that he's been trying to break her spells of concealment, but he wasn't trying too hard. This access pool, it goes right to Eternia, right? They said that you were very cunning and manipulative. What are you playing at? Skeletor reaches into his robes, stating that he is a broken refugee in a foreign land, only armed with this charm and a big damn magical sword. Back in the fray, Superman slams He-Man into the side of a building, stating, "You reminded me of someone I knew once, Billy Batson. He was about your age, same youthful spirit. He saw everything so clearly, right and wrong, good guys and bad guys, black and white, nothing in between." Superman then punches He-Man, stating, "Billy thought that he could fix every problem with a magical word, shazam." But in the end, Billy had to die too. As Superman flies in for the kill, He-Man swings back, stating, "I know all about him, and about the man that you once were. Ever since Lois died, you stopped looking for the truth and accepted lies. That this is the only way. You didn't need the reporter anymore. You could be Superman without Clark Kent. But the truth is, you need Clark Kent just as much as He-Man needs Prince Adam. Because without him, you've forgotten your humanity." He-Man plunges the sword downwards towards Superman's chest, telling him, "I'm sorry, but there's nothing left to save. There's nothing left but the machine." Superman struggles to keep the sword from piercing him, telling him, "Yes, the machine. Brainiac's machine, let me take control. The machine is everywhere. The machine is in the Cryptek armor. And that makes you mine." While Superman begins to dominate He-Man's mind, Wonder Woman watches, stating, "Yes, destroy the dissident." While Teela tries to stop her from choking Batman with a lasso, Wonder Woman throws her off and tells Batman, "This needed to happen. This was a hard choice to make, and I made the right one. You were always too stubborn to admit that you chose the wrong side. Now tell me this isn't better. Admit that this is the world you always wanted. You can't resist the lasso, Batman." As Wonder Woman pulls, she suddenly releases her grip, with Teela pulling the sword out of her back and kicking her away. While Batman shouts, "What have you done?" she tells him, "This is war, Batman, and war has casualties." Wonder Woman coughs through her blood, stating, Good soldier." But back on Eternia, in Castle Grayskull, the sorceress hears the booming coming from outside the chambers, and Darkseid tells her, "Let me in." The sorceress shouts that none but the bearer of the power sword may enter this hall. And Darkseid says, "Very well, I bear no power sword, but I do possess the Omega effect." He focuses his beams on the door, and as he looks, the beams have no effect. No magic can stop me, I deny it. There's nothing before my will." As Darkseid zeroes in, the Omega beams break through, knocking the sorceress out of her throne. Back on Earth, Superman laughs, stating that he needed this. It's been far too long since he's had a good old-fashioned street fight. But just then, something happens. Superman's grasp on He-Man breaks, and Superman asks, "What's going on?" He-Man stands up, telling him, "The power of Grayskull flows through your machines. I've connected myself directly to a conduit for the two things you'd never be able to contain: magic and hope." He-Man gets up, punching Superman with such force that those around them can hear crack-a-doom. Over in Eternia, the sorceress shouts that he will never have the Orb of Power. So Darkseid walks through the sorceress's attack, stating that it is something sought by demons, wizards, and serpentine conquerors. You can keep it. He smacks the sorceress on the head, knocking her away, stating that it is something else that he has come for. "I know all things but one. There is a tale unknown to most of an age long past, when there lived a man named Hero, the most powerful wizard in the universe. In his quest for universal peace and harmony, he came upon an equation. The equation was so powerful that it convinced any who viewed it the futility of existence and made them pliable to complete domination. Recognizing the power one such thing buried in his mind, hoping to prevent it from being discovered by anyone else. So strong his will to do so that upon his death, his spirit carried on, guarding the equation and giving this fabled keep its power for eons. And perhaps it would have it for eons more if all things did not end with the Darkseid." Back on Earth, He-Man begins to walk towards Superman when he suddenly feels something changing within him. His powers of He-Man are slowly beginning to fade, reverting him to just Prince Adam. Superman jumps up, grabbing He-Man by the throat, stating, "I've got a new magical artifact for you to experiment on, Skeletor." When Superman doesn't get an answer, he looks around and asks, "Where is Skeletor?" Over in Eternia, Darkseid uses the Soul Siphon to learn of Hero's equation. And then a voice calls out to him asking, "Is the loneliness of a good equation the desolation of evil?" Darkseid says, "Ah, my servile lackey, as you can see, my plan has come to fruition. You have done your part well. Now come, kneel before your master. Skeletor then says, I have tried getting here for years, but only one carrying a blade imbued with the power of a great wizard can enter and take its secrets. He-Man has that sword and he wouldn't give it up. So, master, if I was going to take what was rightfully mine was to make my own and imbue it with the power of another great wizard. He pulls out his power sword, shouting that wizard's name. Shazam! Back at the Oracle, Superman lifts He-Man up, stating, I don't need Skeletor or anyone else to kill Prince Adam. You are nothing without your magic castle. Just then, a vision of the sorceress appears before He-Man, telling him that they need his help. A few moments pass, and He-Man tells Superman that Darkseid is on Eternia. He stole the spirit of Grayskull, and he has the anti-life equation. Superman grips down on He-Man's throat when Zatanna stumbles in from the back, stating that it was their plan all along. Darkseid and Skeletor, they've teamed up. While Superman and He-Man kept each other busy, Darkseid attacked Eternia, the equation, the ultimate spell. To hear it is to be robbed of the will to live. Earth is straight up boned. Superman lets go of He-Man and lunges at Zatanna, shouting, No! This is my homeworld, I control it. Just then, Wonder Woman begins to laugh. She coughs, asking, Batman, you see it now? He-Man, he was a Trojan horse. He came bearing gifts, the same with Skeletor. He has returned, bursting at the seams with the power of Shazam. Superman slowly steps back, looking at Damian's body, stating that Batman tells him that this war has cost him his son. Wonder Woman killed him, and now she's bleeding out. The only way that she will face justice is if she lives. Stop time for her. Send her to the Phantom Zone. And while you've got the door open, bring Supergirl back. Release her, Superman. Superman stares, stating, This isn't the old days. You don't get to tell me what to do. I don't care if Damian Wayne is dead and Wonder Woman did it. You do not get to tell me what to do. So Batman tells him, The world is under siege. Darkseid has the anti-life equation. No one is safe. We need to stop him and his allies together. Back on Eternia, Cyborg and the others group together to try and tend to their wounds. The war between the factions continues to rage on, though. And then there's a faint hope as the portal opens up, letting Batman and the others through with the help of Swamp Thing. Harley Quinn shouts, asking, What's the plan, Daddy Bats? And Batman tells her, You're part of the Justice League now. Pick a monster and start punching. Back inside Castle Grayskull, Skeletor swings and Darkseid says that he can see that this was his plan from the beginning. All of this manipulation so that you could come here. The fighting sends the two down into the deepest reaches of the castle, the nexus of all realities. Darkseid looks at the orb of power and says that this is what he wanted, and Skeletor tells him that he wants to slip from his fingers far too many times. I will have that power. I will have Eternia. Skeletor jumps down, driving his sword into Darkseid's chest, but Darkseid willingly takes it, stating, That is the difference between us. You want. Darkseid swings his arm, shattering the sword, telling Skeletor, Well, I simply seek to provide the gift of eradicating free will. As the sword breaks, Skeletor's power quickly begins to fade, and Darkseid uses both fists to slam into Skeletor. Skeletor gasps for air, and Darkseid begins to recite the equation. Loneliness and alienation and fear and despair. But before he could finish, there's a loud crack as a rush of energy throws Darkseid off balance. Superman stands with his hands together, telling him, Bravo, you're gonna fall now, just like your son. Darkseid cracks Superman in the head, launching him across the room, telling him, I knew that this day would come. Prison camps for dissenters, mass thought control, a population on its knees. Sooner or later, you would have grown hungry for more. More subjects, more camps, more control. But despite your insistence otherwise, you have decided to become me. And there is only room for one Darkseid. Superman struggles through Darkseid's attacks, reaching for the orb of power, telling him, No, I am not trying to become you. I am trying to win. He takes the orb, slamming it into Darkseid's chest, calling to He-Man. And seconds later, He-Man jumps in, stabbing the power sword into Darkseid. Darkseid stumbles back as his body begins to glow, asking, What have you done? And He-Man tells him, We use the key to open up the orb of power. It's reaching out, converting that which it touches into information, all to be gathered and stored beside the Council of Elders, to be used by students of great will in the pursuit of wisdom and individuality. Darkseid screams in pain, a scream that stops everyone out in the battlefield, and Superman pulls the sword back out of the orb of power. Skeletor then crawls to him, telling him,
I am delighted that my grand plan has worked so well. As I intended, it is I who now controls the orb and the spirit of Grayskull.
Superman smiles. Thank you for your part in this. I will use these tools to eliminate evil. All evil, starting with you. He thrusts his arm into Skeletor's chest and then throws him to the ground. He-Man calls out to Skeletor, and Skeletor tells He-Man,
You missed me.
He-Man gets up shouting, what have you done? Superman looks at him, telling him, it doesn't matter now, because I'm going to fix it all. Surrounding Superman, all of the possible realities float, waiting for one to be chosen. Superman goes on telling him, when you lose someone, when they die, you always think, what if something could have been different? Anything, even just a little thing. What would that have changed? Would they still be here instead of gone forever? The Nexus shows every possible universe. To step into the stream without a guide is to be swept into the currents of the multiverse. But together, we can achieve something great. He-Man tells him no. He will not help him after what he's done, so Superman tells him, I have Darkseid's soul siphon, the spirit of Grayskull, along with the anti-life equation. There's no way of stopping me now. But you do have a way to save Clark Kent. He-Man pauses for a moment and then he reaches out. Seconds later, the two step out into the untouched metropolis and He-Man says that it's beautiful. Superman smiles. It is. This is the morning that I found Jimmy at the docks. I went after Joker when he was dosed with fear toxin, and I ended up killing my own wife and son. If anything had been different, Jimmy and Lois would still be alive. Show me. Show me the paths not taken to better worlds. After visiting so many worlds, Superman says that it is enough. He has seen them all. 1 billion different choices. He saw worlds without the regime because Lois and his son lived for a time. But then eventually there was always something. A drunk driver, an earthquake, a heart attack, cancer, tripping on the damn stairs. There was always something that he couldn't control. He grabs He-Man by the throat, telling him, my brain works like a computer. It knows how to see things now. The only way to be sure that everything goes right is to direct it myself. And I will use the spirit of Grayskull and the orb together. I will spread the anti-life equation throughout every universe. I am sorry that it must end like this. You were a good man, Adam. None of this would have been possible without you. As Superman's grip tightens, Adam blinks and finds himself in a faraway place. The Rock of Eternity. He-Man looks around asking, what is this? And the great wizard Shazam tells him that this is his home. He once shared his great power with a boy named Billy Batson, and then Superman killed him. He-Man says yes. Skeletor took that power for himself, and then Superman murdered him as well. And the great wizard tells him, yes, Skeletor did steal my magic and put it into a power sword, scoundrel of a demon. But you see, the self-proclaimed Lord of Destruction did us a bit of a favor when his black heart stopped. He passed the power of the 6 immortal elders to a worthy host, and that host is you, Prince Adam. Now go, all it takes to be a hero is one little word. Say my name! Back with He-Man and Superman, He-Man manages to get out one little word. Shazam! He-Man grabs Superman by the throat, telling him that the magic of Shazam, enhanced by the orb of power. You're done, Superman! Superman's body begins to turn into information just like Darkseid's, and he says that in some of those realities, he saw them become friends. As a blinding light and then nothing. Back on Eternia, Darkseid's orbital intimidator begins to fall from the sky, and Supergirl quickly tries to catch it. The weight pushes her down and suddenly she feels it stopping and she asks how. Down on the ground, He-Man, back with the spirit of Grayskull running through him, holds the massive ship up. He throws the Intimidator over and sits down, stating that Darkseid and Skeletor have been defeated, and Castle Grayskull has been saved. Batman then asks, what about Superman? And He-Man tells him, a black racer came. He took Superman's hand and he offered a reunion with his family. Your world is free, and so is Clark Kent. So, Earth, along with Eternia, was saved by a group of unlikely heroes. Swamp Thing and Mossman planted a tree at every grave for each of the people of Avion who fell during Darkseid's assault. The Sorceress returned to Castle Grayskull, where she guards all of the wisdom in the universe, except for the anti-life equation, which remains the solemn duty of the spirit of Hero. The remains of the orbital intimidator have been turned into a new hypersecurity prism by Man-at-Arms and Batman. The inmate exchange was quick to ensure safety. Evelyn and her new roommate, Wonder Woman, do not get along. Skeletor's body was never recovered, so Zatanna and Sorceress kept watch over the multiverse should he reappear. Batman and the Justice League returned to Earth, dismantling Brainiac's leftover technology and the regime it upheld. The League's numbers grew as old heroes and new ones stepped forward. Kara Zor-El hopes to remind the people what the symbol that she wears originally stood for, and Regina Taylor, bearer of the power of Shazam took inspiration from a tale told by a barbarian. Now there are two who watch over the cosmogonic equilibrium as the Black Racer saw fit to spare Zodac from the great darkness. Together, Zodac and Metron of the New Gods race to ensure the return of balance between good and evil by searching out champions from each of the universes that they are charged to watch. And now, they know just where to look. And there you have it, the full story of Injustice versus the Masters of the Universe. Honestly, I want them to bring back Injustice 3. Why can't we have it? Why do we have to have things like this? But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed. And don't forget to check out other videos on the channel. We have a lot of stories here, from Batman to Superman to Spider-Man to Deadpool. You name it, it's on here. And you can easily find it by going to the search option or subscribing to our channel and turning on that bell. Thank you so much for your guys' support, and I'll see you next time right here.